Hi everyone, it is a very blustery autumnal day today, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Dark Night of the Soul, and I said I would, and I suppose I've been putting it off a little bit because this means talking about my experience of it, which was very difficult and long period. But I think one of the questions people have, and one I would have myself, is how can you tell the difference between a dark night of the soul and just going through a bad patch, or maybe a period of depression or anxiety, something like that? And my answer to that is the transformation that you go through. So in the middle of looking at my experience, the middle of my dark night of the soul, I just completely didn't know who I was anymore and felt very stripped back. So I felt like I'd lost my identity. So, my relationships went, my friendships went, where I was living went, my dog went, my job went, literally everything just crumbled at my life. And I was sort of left in this sort of void of losing my old self, but not knowing who I was yet. I hadn't yet emerged into the new version of myself. And I suppose the other sign is that once you come out of it, you are completely a different person. So it makes sense now why people had to go out my life. We've had a buzzard going overhead. Totally makes sense now why people had to drop out my life. It felt brutal at the time because it really did all go at once. So probably hadn't been listening to the signs of where I should be going, but that's the way it happened. So those are two major signs: a real loss of identity, things changing all around you, falling out your life, and then becoming a completely different person, hopefully in a positive way, because I felt like I was on some kind of life lesson fast track. When I went through mine, I felt like every lesson was hitting me, from relationships to money, all the real big stuff in life. We're not talking small events, we're talking about big major life events. And it's completely changed me as a person. So just one example was, I was a little bit materialistic before, as I think many of us are. No judgment, it's just, in our 20s, 30s, we're sort of striving to get the car, get the house, be in a settled down relationship, a job. You just assume that you're going to be earning more money each year, or whatever it is that you're striving for. I think we all have very similar things that we do. And then the lessons that I learned, really, so my health also went, and health and peace became number one. So I learnt the lesson about stuff, possessions not really meaning anything. I gave so much away, and I've never really felt any loss from that. I've moved places 3 times. You forget you don't really care about what you look like anymore when your health's gone, and all you want is peace and health in your life. So I learnt many lessons, and all of this really just led me to start looking at myself, looking within, starting to notice patterns in my life as well. So I think you just go through life and feel like life's coming at you without really reflecting too much about what part you've got to play in all of that. And lots of big life lessons got thrown my way. So this all happened really started around 2019, and then sort of, I'd say, escalated between 2020 2021. And I definitely felt like the world was against me at the time. In fact, I'd done a lot of self-development work, probably in my mid-30s, and was changing things. I'd set up a business then as well. So I felt like I was doing the work, let's say. And then when everything just crumbled, I sort of I was angry, and I sort of turned my back on the universe a little bit, and I said, you know what, none of this works, none of this manifesting business works. I've been doing the work, and this is why you've repaid me. So I was quite sort of angry, and I don't think I realised what doing the work really meant, and I obviously had to learn it. So I was doing some work, but it was probably more at a more superficial level than was required, because it's obviously a reason I've gone through this. So I think looking back, there was probably lots of nudges and whispers along the way to try and probably get me on the right track. But as always, if we're not paying attention and not listening, then in comes the sledgehammer. And it definitely felt like it. And I'm smiling at it now, but it definitely wasn't back then. It's not to be taken lightly, because if you're going through something similar where everything's crashing, I know what it's like, and it was definitely painful, and definitely the most challenging part of my life. It's not a time I'd ever want to repeat, to be honest with you. So I think when you're in the dark night of the soul, it's quite a common experience to have a feeling of loss of hope as well, which I did. And I think I've said this before, I didn't want to be here anymore, which is quite difficult to admit, but it was so awful that at many times I just thought, I just can't do this, I can't go on like this. I can't see another year or two and to still be in the same position. So I can only describe it as hell on earth. It really was. So sort of come out the other side of it now, and have been rebuilding my life in my 40s, which is probably another video, because I'm sure there's many people out there who are rebuilding their life in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, who knows, beyond. So which on its own just takes massive guts and courage. And I know when you get to a certain age, society expects you to have had X, Y, and Z done, and then you feel that's all been taken from you, and you've got to start again from scratch. So that is difficult when everyone around you is moving on with life, got families, settled down, and you're having to start again. So it's a real big thing. And the positive to say is that you will come out of it differently, and that is the big sign that you've been through a dark night of the soul, and that you emerge as a completely different person. And you'll have learned a ton, whether you've liked it or not. And as we evolve and grow, which is what we're here to do, there's always more lessons. As I find out, I joke with my friends, like, we really got more lessons to learn, and it's always a yes. And there's always more things thrown at us, and that is the polarity of being here on earth in our experience. So I think my advice would be to surrender to it, because I didn't do that. Not to care what people think, which I know is incredibly hard. I'm a people pleaser, and I definitely do. Working on that though. Yeah, if you find yourself in a dark night, and especially if your health is suffering, it's really time to put yourself first now. And it's difficult to do because you'll probably lose more people along the way. But that was one of the things I had to do. I had to start saying no. So, people have naturally gone out my life anyway, but there was others gone because I just had to retreat. I just had to, it sounds really cheesy, but I had to go retreat and go within, and I've done that for many years. And actually, one of the things I really hated, I'm using that word because that's the word I would have used. My relationship broke down. I was on my own for the first time ever as an adult, and I can remember thinking, I hate this. I hate being on my own, and you want to rush back out there and get into some partnership again. And I really didn't know how to handle that. But actually, after being on my own for, I think it's about 5 years now, I'm finally at a stage where I'm peaceful with that. And I can see now why I haven't been in one, because my focus would have been on the relationship and not on me. I'm rebuilding my life, on the path that I'm on, with the mission that I'm on. And I can also see why people fell out my life in terms of friendships, because they just wouldn't have got me, and which is totally understandable. You know, I'm not the person that I was, so why would they? And it probably would have stopped me worrying about what they think would have stopped me doing a lot of the stuff that I now just do. And it's allowed me the time to discover who I am, as cheesy as that sounds, but it's one of those things you have to experience, I think, to really understand what that actually means. So this is discovering who you are without societal pressures, worrying about what other people think of you. And it's about being really radically honest with yourself. And then it starts to branch out into your life choices and your lifestyle, who now you want to hang out with, who you don't want to hang out with, what's important to you. And that's really what's landed me where I am. Totally different to 5 years ago. I look back, I mean, I don't really think about the past a lot, to be honest, but if I look back at pictures now, I won't be able to recognise me or my life, or probably the people around me as well. It's just so much has changed. But I hope that's just given some sort of context to why I'm here and what I'm doing, and if anybody, just help somebody if they're going through something similar at the moment, to have hope, because I think that's the one thing you feel like you haven't got when you're in the dark night. And I'm here to tell you that there is hope, and you can come out the other end. Look at me 5 years ago, you know, I was in it for years, not just months or days or weeks. And I'm so glad I didn't give up, and I persevered. And I hope that I can help others that are going through something similar like this, because I know what it's like to feel really alone during one of the hardest times you'll probably go through. And you know, sometimes people have multiple ones as well. The whole sort of spiritual awakening isn't just an overnight job. That's, you know, occasionally that happens, but I think it's more of something that just evolves, and you grow over time, you learn your lessons, and then you go on to the next stage, like the computer game, that is sort of the analogy about us living in a matrix and going to the next levels. So it certainly feels like it sometimes with some of the tests and sort of challenges we get as we walk it. So if you are going through one, just know there's a reason why. Let people go out your life graciously. Don't hold on, just let it go. I know it's easier said than done, but I think a lot of my pain was from wanting to get back to the old person. You know, like, oh, I'll just get through this and then I can just go back to my old life and people, and I'll be all right. And it wasn't really until I realised that there was no going back. There's no going back to the old person. And it was to fully embrace the person that was emerging. So I'm going to stop wandering now, and you can hear the wind blustering. So hope that helps somebody. As always, take care, and I'll be back for some more ramblings, which is the ramblings about the path in all its many colours, from the good and the bad, I should say. And thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.